The Valley of Gwangi, one of the finest Ray Harryhausen adventures of all time, actually was Willis O'Brien's idea. He was trying to get this funded in the 1950s, I think. It never came to fruition, unfortunately. Willis O'Brien would pass away, I think, in the early 1960s, and it was Ray Harryhausen and his producer friend Charles H. Schneer who wound up helming the project. The director hired was Jim O'Connolly, and The Valley of Gwangi was released in 1969 and unfortunately didn't make a huge amount of money, from what I can understand, according to the Ray Harryhausen documentaries I've watched in the last few months or so, and I've made videos about those documentaries actually. Check them out if you're so inclined. Gwangi's a ton of fun. I wish it's a bit of a slow film, frankly. The first 40 minutes or so is just building up. You don't mind once it's over and the dinosaur action begins, once they're in the actual mythic Valley of Gwangi itself, which is located in Mexico. It's set in the turn of the century, 1900 or so. And they find initially a pterodactyl, then what could be I don't know, it's not a Gallimimus, although the scene with the Gallimimus is homaged Gwangi in Jurassic Park. The introduction of Gwangi is reminiscent of when the Tyrannosaurus bursts out of the forest of the trees and nabs one of the Gallimimuses. Sam Neill and the two kids witness it in Jurassic Park, you might recall. But when Gwangi gets going, it's a ton of fun, and it's some of the most impressive animation in the history of Ray Harryhausen. Great stuff. And then once Gwangi gets brought back to civilization, he escapes from his prison. He has a fight with an Asian elephant, and then he rampages through a town and then into a church where he sets some flames of raw into the curtains, and the cathedral burns down with Gwangi. It's a tragic tale, not like King Kong. Gwangi was one of the better dinosaur films of the 20th century. I don't know if you would call it the superior, you may, to 1 million years BC, which is a lot of fun, although the novelty of this concept, plus the particularly ingenious animation, such as the lassoing sequence of Gwangi is just classic. It doesn't get much better than that. It reminds me, I always had a idea of, I like this Weird West idea. I like the idea of the American West tropes interacting with traditional kind of sword and sorcery or Tolkien-esque fantasy tropes. I like the idea of a bunch of cowboys riding out on their horses one day. Let's go, boys. Ooh, they're going to go lasso something. You think they're going to, lasso some broncos or something. Broncos, that's an Australian term. Wild horses or somewhere. But then they go to a cave. They start firing their pistols, to ward something out. And then this Cyclops troll comes out instead. And they're like, yeah, oh, there it is, boys. And they try to lasso the troll. Like, I've always thought that would be an amazing introduction to a film or storyline. Someone make it if you want. I don't mind. That would be swell. There weren't enough Weird West films which combined Wild West tropes with fantasy or even science fiction tropes. It's hard to do, I'm afraid. The Ray Harryhausen films are some of those rewatchable and fantastically entertaining genre films of the 20th century. Gwangi is proudly among this category, a triumphant success of the Harryhausen imagination. One of the great treasures of American genre film imagination, mid-20th century, post-war, pre-CGI, kind of, very playful and, fun kind of comic booky cinema, which kind of somewhat erodes during the 1990s and is kind of considered kind of passé, I guess, once you get the direct-to-video DVD era in something about the 2000s, it's kind of done. But you have this interesting era, this moment, this glorious fun time, these playful films for the sake of their own amusement, and their existence as these examples of high imagination, charisma. Thanks, everyone. Do view The Valley of Gwangi if you're so inclined. In any case, have the best possible day and night you have ever imagined.